So we're back. How's everybody doing? And
What's
we're
up?
here in the studio with Ryan Hartford. Let's go.
That's me. What's up? Hello.
So Ryan is a friend of ours, and he is an author. He's a marketing expert, a video whiz. He does all kinds of things. He is an actor, by the way, too. He's got an IMBD account.
Something like that. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
He
That's
just
close.
acts. He doesn't,
Yeah, I don't deal with the computer stuff.
Ryan's
Yeah.
like Mr. Hollywood over here, and since we
Yeah.
shoot in Hollywood every week, we figured let's get Mr. Hollywood on the show and let's talk some real
Yeah.
things. Let's
Well-
go.
I mean, Ryan, who were some of the celebrities you've taken pictures of? I know Kobe was one of them, right?
Yeah, I shot Kobe about 4 months before his helicopter accident.
Wow. When you say shot, like you sat down and did like headshots or
No,
red carpet? Because you do red carpet shoots, right?
Yeah, so we actually shot a podcast with Kobe. And so I did photos for the podcast. And then when he passed away, those photos ended up in a magazine, Newsweek. So,
Wow.
which
Is that a surreal thing, by the way? You're there with someone famous, which has got to be surreal anyway, being around a lot of these celebrities. And then in this case,
I mean,
you know, the most tragic death that we can even, most of us can even remember
Right,
recently
right.
of like Kobe Bryant's dead. What?
yeah, I mean, obviously I'm a huge fan of Kobe.
Yeah.
I had dreams when I was little of
meeting
meeting
him.
Kobe. I mean,
Yeah.
Michael Jordan and Kobe were my life when I was
Yeah.
little. So when meeting Kobe Bryant, like that was surreal.
Yeah.
And then when the photos ended up in Newsweek, the cover of Newsweek was the coronavirus,
Wow.
which was really crazy because
Because it was just starting then, yeah.
It-
Yeah,
it
'cause
was
he died,
literally-
Didn't he die at the beginning of 2019? No,
in
January.
February.
February.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
February. And then
February.
March is when everything closed.
Yeah.
Which is super crazy because I was like, oh, this photo of Kobe Bryant, this is what's going to put me on the map. This is
Yeah.
what's going to be that one thing in my career that just elevates all my work and gets me seen.
Yeah.
And then everything just shut down right
down.
afterwards. And as a freelance photographer, that's like my world. Like
Yeah.
everything shut down.
Yeah. And
So-
how did you pivot? During those periods?
Well, luckily I had a client that I was working with every month.
Oh, okay.
And so it literally went from working with all these amazing, like Make-A-Wish was one of my
Make-A-Wish,
biggest clients.
yeah.
And obviously with coronavirus and kids with cancer and that are
Right.
sick.
They're not going to be having people
Yeah.
all around these kids and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so that world closed quick. And I still work with Make-A-Wish, but during 2020, that just stopped. So I was very fortunate. I was working with the solar company, doing media for them, video and photography for them. And that continued on. And I did some really cool commercials during that time.
I know you.
with
By
that
the way, I
company.
know you've shown us one of the
Yeah.
commercials. We might have to even splice that in here at some point. There's the vampire one. I mean, I
Yeah.
love that commercial, man. That is
Yeah.
such a. So you directed that. You wrote it, everything, right?
Yeah, and so that was for a solar company. To give some context, it's about a Dracula or a vampire who doesn't like the sun, but the customers do like the sun.
Of course.
And so it had a very like Geico flair to it.
Yeah.
And so the owner of the company is really funny. Like one of our first conversations, we were talking about him like cutting carrots, and then he cuts his finger off, and his blood is squirting
And the
everywhere.
owner thought that was a good idea for the commercial.
The owner thought this was
I
a really
love that he just wants to go out there and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, make it interesting."
And so the wife would run in and was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And blood is squirting everywhere. And he's like, "Did you see our electricity bill? Like, it's crazy high." Like, so I knew that the owner was willing to do some like crazy off the wall ideas.
Yeah.
So I approached him with this Dracula vampire idea, and he loved it.
I mean,
And
you
so-
gotta love that as an artist. When
Oh,
usually
yeah.
the owners are trying to rein in the artist, but when you're like the artist and then you're like having to almost rein in the owner because they're like, or the person hiring you because they're like, "Hey, just go crazy. How about
Oh,
this? I thought of
yeah.
14 more ideas. Let's do this."
I mean, it was literally my dream project
Yeah.
because I could write a script. It was like a page or half a page or so, and I gave it to him, and he's like, "Great, go shoot it."
Go shoot it.
And
Wow.
so I cast it. I had auditions. I put it on Actors Access.
What kind of budget were these guys? Did they have?
Well, I mean,
or what kind of budget should they have typically if they're doing something like this?
yeah, I mean,
Because that's a lot of work.
yeah, it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
And especially a lot of it fell on my shoulders. And I think a lot of it, I was just trying to, just steamroll this and just do this.
Yeah.
So my rate was lower, and I was accepting a lot less because I wanted to do this
Wanted
project.
to get it done. I see. But usually, like if somebody, just in general terms, if somebody's going to make a
Yeah.
commercial like that, does that cost them $5,000, $20,000, $10,000? I mean, I don't know if that's even the range, but
Yeah, I'm not going to say how much that commercial was, but I will say I showed it to somebody at NBC, and they said this looks like a $50,000 commercial.
Wow.
And so,
Really nice.
yeah, I mean the amount of crew that I was doing myself that was required on that shoot. I mean, we needed lighting people, we needed sound people, we needed grip, gaffer, like all of that was stuff I was doing myself.
Man.
And I did have a small team, but I brought the lights and I set the lights up while people were in makeup. I was carrying tables, putting plants on tables to make it look like a restaurant. And so I was doing a lot of the grunt work that normally we would pay somebody to do.
Right.
But to keep the budget low and keep the ideas flowing, that was stuff that I just handled myself.
And listen, just to like cut in there really quickly, I mean, Greg and I, we've worked with you on a number of different projects. You've done, great work for us as far as our videos for our real estate and fundraising and our multifamily. And the thing I like about you is that, dude, you really go with the flow. You have these great ideas, but you work within a budget if we need to. You don't mind helping out. We've flown up and, gone to different properties together and done different things. And you're just kind of like, yeah, let's roll.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I think that's hard to find sometimes.
Yeah, you're so, you're a great guy, Ryan. I know we've been friends for a while and we've done stuff like Brandon said, but you just have this, humility that when you meet but yet there's all this creativity and experience, behind, and you start to realize that, when you meet you, but not at first, but it's a good quality of you. I've always said that, you're very approachable and very humble, and I think that's, to me, that's maybe the secret sauce, and I know you'll be super successful, but. How do you?
And that's why we invited you on today to give you all these compliments. So I'm sure you're more than happy to be here at this point.
Yeah, can you write that on my Yelp page?
Yeah, I will. I'll email it to you.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. And I always love working with you guys. Anytime I get a phone call from you and you're like, oh, let's fly to wherever.
And you don't know what it's going to be either, because it probably is. Let's fly somewhere. Yeah,
let's go somewhere. I'm always down, and I'm always excited about working with you guys. So,
but how do you like? What's the sauce? To get in, you're in that business. How do you rise above, Ryan? I mean, what do you have to do to get known, or you just take everything on and your creativity will flow?
So I always seek opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I am always, and I think that's one thing that makes me a pretty.
Yeah, you had said, I read one of your notes. You said there's opportunity is everywhere.
Yeah.
And I absolutely, connect to that thought.
Do you think some people walk through life, they just don't see opportunity because their eyes aren't open, or if they see it, they don't have
they're just waiting
the guts
for a
to go through
particular
it?
one. You know what I mean, Brand? They're like, they have their blinders on.
Yeah.
Take them off, and you'll realize that there's opportunity in everything.
Yeah, well, that's difficult because I don't know what people see and how they see it.
Yeah.
But I think it also benefits me as a photographer, because when I go into a space, I'm literally just looking around. Mm-hmm. And I spend a lot of time just kind of observing how things function. And I can spot a mirror, I could spot a plant that I want to shoot behind. So I have all these elements that I can see that help me. And so when looking for opportunities, for instance, I wrote my kids' book, and I published a kids' book last year.
Searching for
Polaris.
Yep, there we go.
I'll put the link in there.
Yeah.
But
by the way, can people find that where? On Amazon, on your website, or where can they find that?
Yeah, I prefer eclipticmediaphoto.net /book, I think is what it is.
Eclipticmediaphoto.net /book.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll drop it in.
Yeah, that's fine. But you could also find it on Amazon, but my link is a direct to me, and instead of Amazon taking like a third of the cost.
Right.
Because I ship it out regardless.
Right.
Okay.
So I published this book last year, and I went to a kids' book festival, and to take photos and to mingle and to get my book out there, and I met one of my biggest clients there. And I do photography and video for that client now.
Nice.
Wow.
So I think just like finding opportunity and just talking to everybody, being yourself.
Yeah.
That has been my biggest ally.
Yep.
Is just being friendly. And I think a lot of it, like I grew up in the Midwest, so a lot of this
Midwesterns are pretty friendly.
Yeah.
So if you grew up in the Midwest, you already kind of have that ingrained.
They're down to earth kind of people.
Yeah. Well, and it's weird to me that people walk by each other on the sidewalk
and don't say anything.
They don't say anything.
Oh yeah.
And so, or
I
in
think
the
it's
elevator.
Weird, when they don't even get eye contact.
Eye contact.
Yeah.
Like no eye contact, no what's up, or especially like if you got to squeeze by somebody.
Yeah.
And they just like.
What about your neighbors? You talk to your neighbors, and nobody talks to their neighbors.
I mean, if I was
anymore.
Greg's neighbor, in all honesty, I probably wouldn't say anything.
Listen. I feel like they never say hi, so now I don't say hi. So they've turned me into
cycle.
Yeah, it's a vicious
And
cycle.
it is, and I think,
And we need to break that.
I think
starts with you, Greg.
Yeah, well, I think in Los Angeles it's tough because
It is.
there's a billion people here.
Yeah.
And so when you're saying, communicating with all these different people that walk by you
Sure.
that you never see again, I think it just kind of takes your energy in a way. But
you have to reserve some of
yeah, there's just so many people here, and it's like you're driving, and there's traffic, and there's just lines everywhere.
Yeah.
It kind of like does wear on you a little bit.
It does. Yeah.
Whereas in like Kansas, you'd see the same person every day
Right.
walking their dog. So it's like it's easier to be friendly to those people.
I just cannot even imagine Kansas. Like, it seems like a place like would be so friendly and like fun to visit. I just don't, but I don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like,
It's a blast.
I always
You
think of
would
like
be
not
bored.
Kansas
Brandon
anymore,
would be
Dorothy or
bored
something
in
like
one
that.
afternoon.
Yeah.
He'd be bored.
I just don't
Yeah.
know. Like,
Wow.
are there cornfields and like lots of farmers, or does Kansas have what's a big city in Kansas?
Yeah, like Kansas City is like kind of on
it's
the
Kansas
City.
Okay.
Yeah,
There we go.
Topeka.
You see how little I knew
Topeka.
about Kansas?
Wichita.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a very small town, so I graduated with 80 people in my class.
Yeah.
So, it's a different environment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's wheat fields and it's just countryside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
And some people thrive in that environment. Like for me, I needed an artistic outlet.
Right.
And I'm constantly looking for opportunity. And so when there is an opportunity, then I start getting depressed, and I feel really trapped. And so,
what did your family think of you moving to LA?
Yeah, I get that
Hitting
question.
the West Coast. I'm
I
going
get
to Hollywood.
I get that question a lot. Yeah, and I think anytime families want to support you with what you're doing, and I think there was a lot of concern. There was a lot of people who didn't think that the photography thing would work out because it's hard.
Yeah.
And it's expensive to live in LA.
You're in the middle of 1,000 photographers. Yeah.
It's very
competitive.
Yeah, it's very saturated here.
When did you come to LA?
I've been here for like 10 years.
10 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are
And
you considered a Midwestern or LA guy now? What do you think?
I've lived, well,
Come on, Ryan. You're the LA guy. Come on. With a little bit of
Western
Midwestern.
out,
Hey.
I think that's one of your better qualities. Too.
Oh,
So-
yeah.
So yeah.
and some of my worst qualities is the LA in me.
Right.
So it's like,
Well,
Exactly.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think I'm holding on to the Midwest. But I do find myself like walking by people on the street, just
You're
blinders, like
Yeah.
not trying to
Oh,
talk
okay.
to anybody.
See, they're
But
turning you into
I'm
one of them. Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. But I think there's a good part of both of me, and I think the business acumen side is LA, and I think the heart of me is Midwest.
Well,
Yeah.
we were talking about being authentic and your genuine self, and I think that's the thing that sells, and people will see that. You know what I mean? It just comes across. If you're trying to be flashy in the pants of it's not really you, people can see that too. So I think the more you're just yourself and you're finding your stride, right? You know what I mean? So I mean, the other gentleman that was here earlier, he said the same thing. It's like he feels authentic, wearing nice suits, and he's got a flower, but it's him. You know what
I
I mean?
definitely feel underdressed. Like your last guest had a
Oh, man.
full-on suit.
Yeah.
It's hard not to feel underdressed
Yeah.
at your next assignment.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, that's just what it is.
And then Greg takes his jacket off to kind of like, fit the vibe here. It's like,
Yeah, sorry,
wait, what are you
Ryan,
trying to say here?
I'm not trying to say anything.
No,
I feel-
listen, it's all good.
Listen, I feel more comfortable,
Yeah.
being a little casual.
Yeah.
I got to be honest.
But going back to the book for a second, I
Yeah.
mean, and I've known you for a while. We've
Yeah.
known each other for a little while, and again, I always know you as the photographer, videographer, marketing guy, media guy, right? Whatever it is. And when you said you're writing a book, I was like, wow, okay, it's like a whole nother
Dimension.
side to
Yeah.
side to Ryan. I
Yeah.
didn't know, right? I mean, I know how much of a creative person you are, but what did it take? I guess from the time that you were like, hey, maybe I should write a book, because you probably obviously came up with the idea. And then there must have been some time in there where you're like, oh, this is a bad idea, right? Because I imagine sitting down to write a book is like not super easy or fun in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe. So, I mean, walk us through that for a second.
Yeah.
Well, so I wrote this book it wasn't even a book. It was a script. It was a movie script that I tried to animate in college. And so I drew the bear, I drew the boy, and that's when I realized it was a bad idea, because I was like, wow, my art is terrible. So I just put it on my hard drive and just left it alone for a decade, for like 10 years. And every time I was on a date, I would tell the story of this film I wrote. Yeah. And that was like, the one.
And they they must have loved it.
They loved this story.
Girls love these little teddy bear stories.
Yeah, it was the only good thing on the date. But so, telling all the story just over and over again, I said, I have to make this. And so I had a friend of mine come over, and he, it was nothing. He drew the storyboard for it like it was like drinking water. Yeah. And it was brilliant. It was beautiful. Wow. And so I was like, I have to make this. And so I have a friend at DreamWorks. And so I emailed him. I said, hey, what would this take to make this into a movie? And he goes, well, the best way to do this is make it into a kid's book.
Yeah.
Then really?
Then it sells.
Because then that gives them the gauge anyway, the pulse of the market.
Yeah.
And then they say, let's make it into a movie.
Where did Harry Potter start?
I know, exactly. So I'm like, they're writing Harry Potter. The bear has a magic wand.
But you need to go certain levels deep. Yeah.
And so I just started like making it from a script into a book, which was actually kind of a challenge. Yeah. And it ended up being, some people were reading it and they're like, this is kind of like all written out. Like it was like the bear walks this way. Yeah. It was very script-like. And so I really had to like make it into a book. Yeah. And that was a challenge. And it took a long time. I think it took me about a year
to write the book.
Until it went from a script. And this is like, I already had the idea, I had all the visuals, I had everything.
It still took you about a year to write it.
It took me about a year to write it.
What about the business side of a book? I know this is your first book. It is your first book, right, that you launched. And I'm sure you were super stoked to write the book. And by the way, we've gotten copies of it. It looks great, feels great. I mean, I think everything you did, the artwork's amazing. My kids love the book, so
the story.
Tindo still has me reading.
Thank you. The story.
The story. The story.
The only thing that I really had.
Right.
I didn't.
No,
do
but
art,
I mean, I guess everything else you put together was great. But then there's that other element of, so now you've written this book, you put everything else together, you've packaged it well. But now on the business side, you got to go out and move it, right? Because I mean, at the end of the day, you wrote a book, that's nice, but now you gotta get it out there. People got to buy it, they got to read it. So. What was that like?
Yeah, what's going on with that?
That is a good question, because I think a lot of people forget about that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people's bucket list item is to write a kid's book. Yeah. But they don't think about the selling of it and the expense of it, because it was $13,000 to make this book. So to print copies and to do the art, it's just expensive. Yeah. And it never ends. Right. And so
sounds like a real estate deal.
I know.
Someone's always calling, asking for some more money.
Exactly. So that is definitely something that I'm not like great at. And that is something that I'm working on, is like trying to figure out how to sell this book. And a lot of people tell me that in the industry, the book writing, kids book writing industry, that selling your book is very hard until you have at least 3 books.
Because you're saying once you get a little bit more of a following, then they kind of start to move.
Don't you have a second book?
So I wrote 2 more books. One is about a chocolate wrapper, and
a what?
A chocolate wrapper.
A chocolate wrapper.
Like a wrapper, huh?
Like a wrapper, yeah.
Oh.
What's that movie where the bag's blowing in the wind with Kevin Spacey and a beautiful. Not Beautiful Mind.
No,
that's what I was thinking.
I have no idea.
No,
American Beauty.
American Beauty.
Yeah.
I'm imagine so it's like a rapper just blowing.
Yeah.
I thought
Malcolm in Space. Is the book that I am excited about. The rapper one is I'm hoping to get funding for that will help me solidify more funding with that. So it's all about funding and making that happen, because it's going to cost $15,000 to $20,000 to make these books.
Right.
Boom.
So the premise is, do doing this, somebody's going to call you from DreamWorks one day, and
you just never know.
No, exactly.
What's your big? Do you think you'd rather be making movies, writing books, creating commercials, shooting red carpet, or continue to just do it all?
Yeah. So for a long time, when I was running by my apartment, I lived down the street from Sony. Sony is a beautiful studio. Yeah. And I would run by Sony.
Just to look at it.
And I would look at it and be like, Ecliptic Media.
Go home and cry.
I would see my name on that. And so I want to be a full-fledged media company.
Okay.
So I want to write books, I want to write movies, I want to do photography,
Good for you, Ryan.
video.
Good for you.
And that's what Ecliptic Media is.
Yeah.
Is Eclipse is all media.
Man.
And that's how I created it.
Yeah.
And so I used to do web design too, but I pivoted from that, and now I just do photography, video, writing, and I just want to create.
That's a really good plan. I like that, Ryan. I think you're going to be super successful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you still going to let us come in and visit you when you're a big shot in your media company?
Of
Ryan,
course.
we could be one of your investors.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna help sell Sony to me with.
100%. We're in, you know? I imagine one of like the
We'll
Seinfeld
send
commercials.
Brandon in and then
You guys, exactly. You guys ever watch Seinfeld though? You know, a little bit. Okay, I was a big
I've heard of
Seinfeld.
it.
Anyway, there's an episode where they're pitching because part of the show is they make a show and they're pitching the executive.
It's a show about nothing.
It's a show about nothing. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, we'll be there to pitch them, man. Let me know.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's just like constantly just going, to the next level.
Yeah.
Moving the ring, and I think that's like you said, why write a book?
Yeah.
That's just a challenge that I just wanted to
to
accomplish. But it's funny because like I was like, I'm a photographer, and I tell people that I'm a photographer, and they're like, oh, I'm a photographer.
Yeah.
I go, okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, I make videos. Oh, I make videos.
Yeah.
Oh, I make a kid's book. Oh, I make a kid's. So it's like every time I would tell somebody of something I'm doing, they would just always either one-up me.
One up your day.
And I'm like, can I not do anything special that's, sets me apart?
Well, by the way, and it is LA because in LA you do have a lot of people that are like doing all these different, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a creative space. I mean, LA is.
But I think you're unique. It is creative space, and it is flooded out there with. But you have to be a little unique, and I think you've got that edge. Right?
Well, and I think I've always wanted to. That's why my book is 13,000 and not 1,500. Is because I wanted to make something that I'm not just trying to make a book.
Yeah.
I wanted to make something that people are proud to own.
Right. There's some value there.
And one of my best friends, his kid texts me, or his kid tells him to text me that they love the book.
Nice.
And to me, that's
gold.
That's gold. That's what I'm doing this for, is to make stuff that people want to watch.
Yeah.
Or want to work with me in the future with. So I think that's the thing. It's just like lead with quality.
Yeah.
And
authentic.
Yeah. And I'm not concerned about the ROI.
Sure. Yeah.
I just want to be able to pay off this stuff and pay my bills.
Yeah.
And then so you can keep going, do the next one.
Yeah.
And
I think that's the focus. And I think that's what stops a lot of people is they're either too focused on their ROI or they're too focused on what other people say.
Yeah.
Yeah, they let that kind of get in the way.
In this day and age, for sure.
Because I think, it's like, oh, I have to make this much money on a book. Then don't make it because you're not going to make that much. I have 700 copies of my book in my bedroom now.
You're out there hawking it at car washes and, swap meets and, anybody, he's bartering, he's at the grocery store. Can I sell this to you?
Yeah, you should have the Girl Scouts, start selling.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's funny, but I'm not against doing that. Like, I'll set up a little booth outside of Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
And I plan to, but
yeah. That's a good one.
So, okay, so then let's shift for a second. Let's talk about the red carpet events. I think that's a really interesting thing. It's very Hollywood-esque, right?
Yeah.
Like shooting a red carpet. How has that been? You got any funny stories, interesting stories, without totally busting anybody out? But I mean, you've had to have seen some things you're on the red carpet with all these celebs and you're at these events and stuff. Yeah,
it's really interesting how I got that because the photographers on red carpets, they're very competitive.
I was going to say they're established, aren't they?
They're Oh, yeah.
They're connected. Everybody wants those jobs. Yeah.
I'm like one of the youngest.
So how did it occur, Ryan?
So I was shooting a red carpet that my friend was on that he was just like, hey, just come. It's like a charity event.
There's be a second shooter or something? Or?
Yeah, just like come. And it's really easy because there's no celebrities at this one. And it'll be fun. And you could just come and just meet people. And I met another photographer and they were like, hey, give me your card. I'll pass it along to my agency. And so I got streamlined right into it.
Wow.
And I've met photographers on those shoots where they've been like, oh, I've been working on this for like 5 years.
Yeah.
And I'm just starting to do big carpets.
Yeah.
Where like my first one was with Vince Vaughn.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I love Vince Vaughn. Dude's so hilarious.
Oh, I love him even more after the first thing. And he is really funny.
Dude, Wedding Crashers.
Dodgeball.
Yeah.
Dodgeball.
Oh my gosh.
Old School.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn's great.
Vince Vaughn
He's that the one with Jennifer Aniston.
Breakup.
Breakup.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah.
But so my first carpet had like 5 photographers, so it was very low key. Normally there's like 20 packed into a space for like 5 people.
And everybody's shooting over each other.
Hitting people in the head with
hey Vince, over here.
Oh, exactly. And people like hitting each other with the camera lenses and stuff. But my first thing was there was like 5 photographers there.
Yeah.
It's very low key. And when they went through, it was very quiet. Oh, hey, Vince, whatever. So after I went to the hotel lobby, I was editing the photos, sending it off to the agency, and I look over and I see Vince Vaughn sitting at the bar with the guy from Christmas Story.
Okay.
He produced that movie with Vince.
Yes.
And so I walked over there and I was like, you know what, whatever. So I
Vince
sat,
like, oh, I'm glad I finally got past all this bullshit. I'm gonna sit down and do my drink. Ryan comes in and is like,
hey, what's up? No. So I sit next to him,
Yeah.
and I just start talking to the bartender, and I go, hey, Vince, I took a few photos today. And, of course, it's my first one, so I'm just, like, very bold. And I'm like, hey, Vince, I took a few photos. If you want to have a couple, I'll send them to you. And he's like, oh, he looks at them. He zooms in a little bit, and he's so tall. He's really tall.
He's very tall.
And the other people on the movie are not that tall.
So it's just like,
so he's like, oh, it looks like I'm with the 7 dwarves. and he kind of laughs, and then he's like, hey, let me buy you a drink. And so he bought me a drink. And that was like my first carpet. I'm like, man, this is awesome. I'm going to do this. This is like I'm going to streamline right to the top, and I'm going to and so I'm going to be like producing movies with Vince soon. And so
Vince is going to write the book cover, the book jacket.
I know, a little like a quote.
Yeah.
And so I left, and I said my byes, and he's like, "Hey, I'll see you."
Never. No.
Well, yeah.
Brandon.
You're blacklisted. You're blacklisted for this industry.
Yeah.
Don't ever talk to me
Son
again.
of a bitch.
But no, he was like, "Hey, I'll see you. I'll see you on the flip side or whatever."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Cool, man." Like.
So you showed up at his house and then you
Yeah,
rang the doorbell 4 times the next day?
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly.
So I was not what I meant about flip side.
Like someone in his pool.
He's right.
Borrowed your bathing suit. Hope you don't
Yeah. I would, yeah. But anyway, so that's my, but it's not always like that. And it's.
Yeah.
Sometimes
But
is it sometimes just a normal job? Like you're out there working and it's just,
It's hard. It's hard.
It's hard work, I guess.
It's
what
hard.
I meant.
Yeah.
It's not always just the glitz and glamour where you're having a drink with Vince Vaughn.
No, and I mean, it's so funny. I always kind of laugh because they have the stanchions that block the photographers from the talent.
Oh, okay.
So you got the talent on the
One
carpet,
side,
and then you got the photographers, like
Yeah.
for
Behind
like the
the ropes,
lowly,
yeah.
like the slums are back there.
Okay.
And so it's like it's a different kind of environment.
Yeah.
And some people, the talent.
Does that bother you, or does it?
Oh, it does.
It does.
It does. And sometimes the talent they don't know, but they go, oh, there's the paparazzi.
Yeah.
But the paparazzi, they hide behind plants and they stalk celebrities.
Yeah,
it's
that's
disgusting.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hate it. Like
Yeah.
I hate being called paparazzi.
Yeah.
Because those are people that I don't respect.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. They harass. I mean,
They harass, and so I hate being behind the stanchion. I hate being the photographer when the talent is on the carpet.
Yeah.
And it's not really what I saw myself like moving to LA for.
Right.
But it does give me opportunities.
It does,
And that's
yeah.
what
Yeah.
that's
And
what
that
it
lead
is.
to
I mean,
something outright.
you're kind of, you talked about having a media company, which I think is a great goal, Ryan. But you talked about, you're kind of diversified, and maybe that's where you were intending to go. But you have the media, the photography,
Yeah.
and then you also have the books and
Video
stuff. I
work.
mean, I can see this going to different places. So maybe you don't have to continually focus on the pictures, or maybe you have somebody else doing it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, I think I went to film school.
Yeah.
And so everyone in film school, they want to direct a movie.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
That's what.
Right.
Okay, that's the big.
Yeah.
The push.
That's the
The-
pie in the sky.
The very first, it's supposed to be.
Okay.
And so I think that's the thing is the first day of film school, they were like, who wants to be a director? And everyone raised their hand.
Everyone's yeah.
Everyone, I want to be a director. They want to be, Steven Spielberg. Of course, that's a great goal.
Yeah.
That's a great dream. But you know how many people come out to direct? I mean,
Yeah, of
it's
course.
like a really small, like 3 or 4
Yeah.
even have any kind of real, make anything, let alone a commercial successful movie.
Wow.
But And I came out here to direct, just like everybody else.
So is that still your big?
It is.
Like
That's my unicorn.
Like that's your. Okay, I was gonna say you looking back in 10 years and you've made it. It's you're a big time Hollywood director.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is like a lot of this is just kind of like to get me eyes.
Yeah,
Of course. Yeah.
And I think that's the start of it. And I think as people start to get to know me and get to see my Dracula commercial or see my book or see my project with you guys, like they start seeing, okay, well this guy can do whatever. And I'm starting to see, the stairway. Yeah, I'm starting to see like the things that I'm working on are coming together.
Yeah.
But again, it's kind of like saying you want to direct a movie in college. Nothing ever seems to go exactly according to plan.
As planned.
Right.
Yeah. You're veering left and right, but you're getting there.
I never thought I'd write a kid's book.
Yeah.
I never thought I was going to be a photographer.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, I didn't move out to LA to be a photographer, and I took a class. So I worked at Showtime Networks for 4 years. I took a class to do photography, and I would get out of work at like 5 or 4, and I'd go to this class, take pictures, go home.
Yeah.
Get out of work a little early. It was fun. It was a cool like hobby. And during the class section where he was talking about the settings and all this stuff, I would just skip it. I would just go home. I would just take pictures and have fun and whatever. And the first year of my photography business, I didn't know any of the settings.
Any of the what?
The
settings.
So you're out there just taking pictures. You're like, how the hell do I work this thing?
Well, I had exactly. I would go manual because that's just how you do it.
Yeah.
But I was like, the photos were blurry sometimes, and I actually had a client, a pretty big client, come to me and they're like, hey, we gotta talk to you about some of these photos. They're a little blurry.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a wake up call where I was like, okay, I need to like start figuring out how to use this camera.
Better. Yeah.
And it took a year.
Wow.
And I've been doing this for 7 years now.
Yeah.
And it still took a year to recalibrate the settings on the camera. To figure out how to like really
to understand how to use the camera completely.
Yeah.
And so, nothing comes according to plan. You just have to just go after.
Yeah.
And I just thought photography was the easiest way to go from
Interesting.
that to video production.
Yeah.
Instead of just doing video production, because it's very expensive
Yeah.
to do video production. So you need lights and you need all this stuff, where cameras can be kind of like the gateway drug.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
I see. One of the things I like about you, Ryan, is like you know how to say no sometimes. And I think that's kind of interesting because, we're talking about saying yes to different things, right? To keep the balls in the air. But you also know how to say no. Like even when we started doing this podcast, right? We had spoken and I was like, hey, can you help us figure out this and that, maybe shoot some of the podcasts and all this or be the producer or whatever. And you're like, listen, man, like I've got my own stuff that I'm
Brandon.
Right. It was basically like, click. I'm like, Ryan? No. But I respect when people tell me no. And especially, in a business setting in the sense of like, the fact that you said, hey, that's not my passion right now, or maybe it's not what I have the most time for because I'm chasing my passions or I'm pushing my business forward in these other areas. And I think that, again, a lot of people, they don't do that. They say yes to everything. They say yes to too many things.
Yeah.
They need to know, even if you're trying to grow this big thing and you need to have some different balls in the air, you have to know where to draw the line. You have to know where do I say no. Because if you say yes too many times, I'm telling you, you're going to be just spread thin.
People are good at wasting your time if you let them, and you have to say no. And listen, I should have said no a long time ago to a lot of different things. And
I should have said no when I met you, but
kudos to you because you've learned that, Ryan. You've got to kind of stay in your lane and
I think it comes with experience.
Yeah.
So when you're starting out and you're accepting every $200 job,
you can't say no to everything.
Yeah, you have to say yes to things because you have to have stuff to show people.
Right.
And I was just trying to think with the example of you, like I had to understand, like, how am I going to show somebody else that I could do this?
Right.
And I didn't see how that would really benefit me.
Exactly.
And there's been times when I've said yes to people that I thought were not good people. And that was terrible.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'll do this job, and then we'll cut ties. But then you do the job, and then it's like, it's not that bad, and then do another one, and it's like, you didn't really treat me well, or
Right.
this didn't go according to what I thought I wanted to make with this guy.
Yeah.
And then eventually you end up kind of in a bigger project.
Yeah.
And no one's happy, and the vibes aren't right, and it just, you have to be very careful on what you say yes to.
Yeah.
Right. If not, like you said, you get into a situation where you're like, man, what did I just spend all this time on? What am I doing?
Yeah, and even I've made a lot of money on projects that I should have said no to.
Yeah.
But it really just affects your psyche, because at the end of it, you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Should I even be
Right.
should I even be doing
You start
photography
questioning
anymore?
everything about.
You do start
Should I even be here?
Just naked, the cold
Yeah.
sweats, like
In
staring
the
at yourself
shower.
in the mirror. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
In the shower.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but I mean, so along those lines, like, talk to the business owner out there, the person that, whether they're a realtor or they own some business or whatever they do, and they're having those same days where they're like, man, like, what am I doing? Is this right? And they're not sure if they should keep pushing. Maybe they've had a bad run at something for a while. Like, how do you, as an entrepreneur, right, as somebody who has his own business and is in a very competitive creative space, as we've touched on, how do you get through those little ruts that I assume you must have, like everybody else?
Yeah, of course. I would say don't be afraid to pivot, but have the confidence to stay the course.
Okay.
And I think that's like contradictory to some degree.
But it can be both.
But I think like understanding, kind of like what you just said, like with saying no, knowing and having the confidence of the course that you're taking.
Yeah.
Is it going to provide the benefits that you're looking for?
Right.
Is this going to give you what you need, whether it's financially or artistically, mentally? Like, what is this providing you?
And don't be afraid to say yes too, because opportunity, can exist, like you said before, right, everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have to open that door too.
So you think it could be a fine line too, because if you're saying no too much, you could say no to something that could have been that next something that opened a door.
I think so.
Well, and I think that's the thing is you have to know. I think mapping out why you're saying no to it.
Right.
And I think
You're
that's
gonna say no. Make sure
that's
there's
the
a reason.
key.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Are you saying no because you're scared of the opportunity?
Yeah.
Is the opportunity too
Maybe
big?
you should have said yes. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I shot a conference last year, and I've never really shot a conference before, and that was a lot of work.
Were you thinking about saying no initially?
No, I
But maybe
wasn't.
now you would, maybe because of how much work it was, or what?
I wouldn't think of saying no, and I'm going to do the conference again. I think the thing is, like, I never did a conference before, and so I had to rent the equipment. I had to hire people. I had to hire like 12 staff.
Wow.
And so hiring that many staff and then renting the equipment in a different state and coordinating everything, and it was all on me. So if it failed, it was on my shoulders.
Right.
I was to blame, and I had no one else to, not like I would do this anyway, but like I didn't have anyone else to be like, this is the guy that,
Right.
messed
He
everything
screwed
up.
it up.
Yeah.
It was all on me.
You.
And I think like I didn't want to say no to that because I wanted that experience. I wanted to have that. I wanted to produce that, and I wanted to make that. That was a challenge that I was putting in front of me. Now, if I would have said no because I would have been afraid of the opportunity, I would have been that would have been a disservice to me.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing is like understanding. Are you saying no because, is the ROI too low?
Right.
That makes sense.
Right.
Or
Right.
is the person that you're working with not someone that you want to continue? Like, can you see yourself,
Right.
having a good relationship with this person in a year from now? Like, I've known you guys for, what, 2
Couple
years now? Yeah.
Yeah, and you still answer our calls.
I know.
It's amazing.
You
Especially
still
his.
It takes me a few minutes, but
Yeah, exactly.
No.
When we call, you're like, oh, shoot, what do they want now?
By the way,
So I
we
want to go
gotta
to
get-
Fresno.
We got
Exactly.
we got to get outside again and doing our soccer game or a basketball game. You're a basketball. No, you're a soccer.
No, we
guy.
played basketball and
No,
soccer.
I know, but you played soccer.
I played
in
soccer in college, but I mean,
yeah.
I was standing on the sidelines most of the time.
Okay.
But I was on the team and I stayed.
Yeah, and you practiced.
I practiced
Yeah,
with
yeah.
them. But
Oh, man.
yeah.
So by the way, on that point, how important is your health? Like, again, I always bring everything back to like, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're in business, you're trying to build something. Sometimes people have a tendency to just sort of like say, I'm not going to work out, I'm not going to eat right, I'm not going to take care of my body. I'm just all in on. They associate like neglect other things, so I focus on this, right? And I used to do that until one day.
That is a good point.
One day I realized like, no, you can have both, and actually, the healthier you are and the better your mindset is, you're gonna be ready to run through brick walls on the work front. So I mean, because I know you're big into health and fitness. Like that's obviously been something you've been all about, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is like, things should be an investment in you.
Right.
And so when you're working out, you're investing in yourself, and it keeps your mind clear, and it really just makes everything run smooth.
Yeah, it does.
It's true.
Yeah, it makes every day a little easier if you're healthy.
Unless you're doing 75 hard, then it makes every day a lot more difficult. Yeah. I'm on my last couple of days here, so it's my third time doing it, and dude,
Brandon, go ahead and take your shirt off.
I should post it. Yeah, exactly. We'll save that for the next one. No, but the thing about that for me, just really quickly, was like I did it one time because I'd seen all these other people doing it, and I really wanted to try it. And I've been working out since I was in high school. I'm 37 now, and I'm always in pretty decent shape. But I've had my ups and downs as far as I don't pay attention to health as much as I should for a year or something or whatever. And I don't know. I just needed something. I needed a little push. It was almost like that plateau of like, okay, you're just like doing this as far as your health. And I was like, damn, that looks really hard and painful. And silly me, stupid me, that was probably like, oh, let's try that. So then I tried that.
Know when to say no, Brandon.
Yeah, I should have known when to say no.
What I think that speaks to you is like you're always looking for challenges also.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's something I always appreciate, and I align with you guys with that, is you're always looking for challenges. And no challenge is too small. 75 hard. I thought about doing that with you for like a day, and then I looked at the schedule like, you know what? I'll let you.
Shit.
I'll still work out every day, but I'm not going to do 75 hard.
Yeah.
It's definitely something I've enjoyed. I don't know, Morgan. My wife Morgan's always like, "Are you going to keep doing it? You've done it 3 times now." And I'm like, I don't. It's funny. It's just maybe I'll find something else to put my attention to. But right now, for me anyway, it's been a good thing to do either once a year or like twice a year, just to take that little 2.5 month detox from drinking and just really get hyper focused on everything. And so
does it get easier when you're in it, or does it just it just painful every day?
It gets progressively almost worse because you start getting sick and you still have to go outside and run or work out or whatever. And so it's a little, hey, it's 75 hard, but the results speak for themselves. You feel great after it. And so in 2 days I'll be able to just like, relax.
We won't see
I'm going to have a little glass of wine, maybe 4 glasses of wine.
He'll be on a binger.
Exactly.
Go back to heroin. And
exactly. I'll be in a van down by a river. But
and I think that's self-discipline is self-love, and I think I don't have to work out for an hour every day.
Yeah.
But I do have to go into the gym.
Yeah.
And whether it's lifting a weight and being like, you know what? I'm going to walk around the block a few times and like flip through Instagram or whatever.
Yeah.
At least I'm staying committed to going to the gym.
Yeah.
Because I always stay, and after the first rep or two, I don't always want to go to the gym. Most of the time I don't.
Of course.
But you do a couple reps and you're like start seeing yourself in the mirror.
Get going.
And you're like, you start kind of like getting the momentum.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of times just gaining the momentum is the hardest thing.
Right.
And so just sitting down and doing the work, or going to the gym.
Because once you get moving, it just seems easier.
Yeah, laying in the bed, pulling out your phone, and I've done this before too. You flip through the Instagram, you're not leaving that bed for like an hour, you know? But
they had doom scrolling or
Yeah, exactly. But you roll off onto the floor, you roll over to roll to the bathroom, and then once you start kind of getting that momentum, by midday you're on fire.
Right. But all these things that we're doing, working out, I work out, and Brandon's crazy workout, but you just know they're good for you. You know what I mean? They're just better for you. Doing that, every time I go to the gym, I hate it. I'm in the parking lot, crying.
Yeah.
But once you get going and once you get done, you just tell me it's just not like the greatest. I mean, Brandon, you're experiencing this. If you get through this 75-day hard,
I already know it'll be this weird like anticlimactic thing where a couple days after I'll be like, I need to go to the gym like 3 times a day.
But internally,
you start getting addicted.
But internally, the confidence. Maybe it's not confidence, it's something else, but you can do it.
No, I think the confidence is there.
Yeah.
And I think building the habits.
Yep.
The habits,
Yeah.
that are good for you.
And also to speak to that is when you go to the gym, when you go home, you're not ordering a pizza.
That's exactly right.
You're gonna.
Greg usually is.
Yeah. Well, you need the carbs to kind of like bulk up or whatever.
I'm gonna have like a lasagna now.
Way healthier. Yeah. Everything about you is healthier. It just is. You know what I mean?
When I don't go to the gym, that night for dinner, maybe I'll have some pizza or I'll have, tacos or whatever.
But you're right. If you've gone to the gym, you kind of already are starting to program yourself.
You're not
gonna, I'll reach for something a little different than that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to be eating as unhealthy. Like you're not going to McDonald's after a gym.
Right.
You're going because you know that you've already invested that time in the gym. Why would you go and waste it on McDonald's or whatever?
Of course.
Anyway, it's.
No, man, that's awesome. Well, let me ask you a question. I know we're going to have to wrap up here pretty soon, but where do you see, I always ask everybody that, where do you see yourself in 5, 10 years, 15 years? I know we sort of touched on some of it, but what is Ryan doing? Are you still here in LA? I know you mentioned the big media company. Like where are you going?
Yeah, I mean, that's, for me, it's so much about just doing as much as possible. And so, I'd love to direct a movie. Like that's really at the height of like what I'm reaching for.
Yeah.
So I'm writing some stuff and I'm dabbling and I'm kind of like putting together.
Will you cast us in some type of role if you get that?
Extras.
Yeah.
You got extra roles, definitely.
Look, 30 seconds, it's cool.
A
30
blur,
seconds.
A blur behind
the John Wick role or something,
Yeah, just Brandon doing push-ups in the background. Yeah. I mean, and I think like, I've got a couple books that I want to publish, Malcolm in Space and Wally the Rapper. Those are definitely projects that I see myself completing. Whether I'll write more books than that, I don't know, but I'd like to at least have 3. And then writing and producing and directing a movie is like, that's definitely on my list. So
wow, man, exciting stuff. I mean, to me, that's the American dream. You literally have moved to LA. A lot of people do. It's highly competitive, and you're getting success, man. You're getting momentum, and you're making things happen. And my hat's off to you because it's tough to do anything, but you're out there just swinging every day.
Bro. We're big fans, Ryan. Yeah. We always will be, And I know you'll have much success. You're just, you got the little secret sauce. So.
Well, and I appreciate that, and I feel the same way about you guys. Like you guys are chasing your dreams.
Really? What part? What are my good parts?
Oh my God! No, I love you guys. Like I mean,
appreciate that, man.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, anytime I get a chance to hang out with you guys, whether it's in Fresno or playing soccer, like I always have a blast, and
we try to have fun.
I really appreciate our friendship. Like you guys are great.
Nice.
So.
That's cool, man. Appreciate that. So how do people get in touch with you, man? If they want to, you mentioned the website link earlier. Is that the best place to go? Do you have another spot they can go to check out whatever you're up to or hire you for some photography or video work? Or?
Yeah, you could go to my website, eclipticmediaphoto.net. Okay. I know it's a mouthful, but
we'll throw it up.
Ryan at eclipticmediaphoto.net or at Ecliptic Photo. Those are kind of, so those are my spots. And
the book, Searching for
Polaris. It's on Amazon and it's on my website.
Don't buy it there. Buy it on the website. Let's go.
Buy it on the website. Yeah. I make a little bit more from the website. So
love that, man. Well, listen, you're going to do big things. Can't wait to see that movie. Let's make it happen. And thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you guys.
Bam.
Yeah.
Woo. That's a wrap.